Okay, well, thank you for coming to the eXp Seniors Network Mastermind for June 8th, 2021. And tonight, we're just having open discussion, but there are a few topics we're going to talk about. Debbie Gentry, the floor is yours.
So Jody and I were talking about her market, which is Northeast Ohio. So in those three counties, how many listings do you think you have active in that area? Every realtor together.
Yes. So I would say in just my immediate area, as I said, and that doesn't include, I mean, that's more than just, you're wanting MLS, not just my.
Right, MLS.
Right. There are probably about 500.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, there's about 500 in the three counties, which is down, like I said, at least 14% from what it normally would be this time of year. So it's incredible.
Right.
A lot of buyers still looking. We just, it's a challenge, but we're working it. I have a lot of people that want to put their house on the market and they want to move, but they have no place to go.
Right.
So
right.
That's a challenge. So I've got a couple of relocations. I got a couple of, elderly people who really want to just get out of town. And, but their plans of where they were going to go this year is not happening. And everybody's it seems that the people that I'm working with have put things off because of last year. And this year is just not being very favorable to them.
Right.
And they can't, remodel even to accommodate their situation, because that's costing them a fortune, or they can't find the wood, or they can't find somebody who will do it, or, they need new windows, but it's 12 weeks wait. So.
Right.
Yeah. And so helping them kind of filter through those challenges is a trial for me.
Thank you. So
where are you at?
Donald and I are both in the Villages, Florida. So an hour north of Orlando.
Okay.
And as of about 5 minutes ago, we have a total of 150 listings total.
Oh, wow.
The three counties in the Villages, which we have 90,000 homes.
Yeah.
So we should, between us and the developer, should have 1,000 listings. That's how far down we are. So
yeah.
So who else wants to tell me, how many do you have in your market listing wise? We're trying to get a feel, because people are asking what's happening in the rest of the world. So tell us what's happening in your world. Roderick, Tom, Isabel, Dan, anybody? Open your mic and share. Hello. Roderick says he's a new agent. Welcome, Roderick.
Not all at once. Go ahead, Tom. Show us your face too.
Sure. Sorry.
There we go.
There we go. No, sorry. I was just looking actually because our stats are a little different. We have, we can't keep up with demand, but inventory is actually up. So more homes have sold, but we're not able to still keep up with the, with the demand, right? So even though they sold, like, let's say 3,000-4,000 homes more than they did, last May, it's still there's still the demand is still like not hasn't been met, right? And
so
it just
remind us where you're at.
We're in Toronto.
Toronto.
We're in Toronto. So I mean, I guess we can't complain because we haven't had any new immigrants in 2020. So now, because that was fueling a lot of the growth, it's always fueled a lot of the growth, but now they're saying that they're expecting to allow 400,000 immigrants into Canada next year. And so you'll probably have about 250 alone come to the greater Toronto area. So
Wow.
There's growth and,
And no homes.
well, there's new homes, but the province is also allowing for, higher density infill, things like that in any of the, urban areas, right?
Right,
So what used to be considered, 2 hours away is now, a bedroom community,
right.
So there's potential, like we're going farther and farther away from the city core to just, you'll find listings, there's tons of condos going up in Toronto. So it's not too bad, right? Because the city's growing, the demand is there. We've gone through COVID with high unemployment and all the problems, and people are amazed. They think there's gonna be a crash, but if it would have crashed, it would have crashed already. Right? It's not going to crash when all the economic factors come back, like unemployment comes back, and like when that comes back, it's going to be booming, right?
Yeah, I think for the US, we may be in a different situation, but we'll see. I'm seeing 2005. That's all I see here. But who else? Dan, what's happening in your world?
But no, I was going to comment too. Like
Oh,
the only thing I see as a problem is if there's a world economic collapse. But like as far as the demand here, there's the interest rates are low. Like unless things collapse throughout the world, I don't see it slowing down.
I read an article about a week ago that said we're about 4 million homes short right now. With the boom of, millennials wanting to buy now and everything else, it's just incredible that the housing shortage is that bad, which of course will drive prices up, but it just depends on what's going on in each area, each community, each state, because we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, right? I mean, what you just said, Tom, makes total sense. But like you said, will the world have a collapse? And we don't
Yeah,
know.
I mean, unless there's a threat of war coming from Asia or something like that, that
Stock
throws
market,
stability. Stock market tanks. Yeah, but and here plus they're really pushing for garden suites, legal basement apartments, because we all have basements here. So
right.
all the new builds are putting in 9-foot ceilings and the proper fire rated separation to allow for, I mean, I've heard of people actually, if you can believe it, renting out basements and building a garden suite. This is how the millennials are affording a house. So if you're going to carry $700,000-800,000, it's good if you actually live in a home that has 2 rental components from it, right?
Yeah, it makes sense.
So
Cool. Dan?
I think life expectancy is higher, isn't it? Which makes the shortage of housing.
yeah.
Well, it changes the housing market, right? Because I mean, I know here we have more assisted living memory care facilities than ever before. So older people, seniors are moving to go into those facilities. As an example, my neighbor across the street, her husband has dementia. So he's been in a facility for about 3 or 4 months now. And now she's decided to sell her home and move in to the facility as well, into a separate unit, because she can't be with him. So that's a house that's either coming on or it's probably already sold. But now you're taking up 2 residences in one facility, which is kind of, yeah, it's costing them a small arm and a leg to do it compared to their home. But, and, you know, they're fortunate enough that they can afford it. But what do you do with a couple who can't afford doing that? That's, I mean, that's some of the challenges that I think we're going to see moving forward is you have, you know, the class of, you know, poor, middle, upper class is the middle class is getting squeezed out to where you're either going to have the money or you're not. From a senior perspective, if you saved properly, you planned properly for retirement, you're going to be okay. But these facilities are taking that money that you've saved and worked hard for, you know, 40, maybe even 50 years. They're taking that money pretty quick because it's not cheap. I mean, you know, you're $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 a month in some facilities. And now in this case, they got two places they got to be in for that kind of money. So that's going to, unfortunately, deplete their nest egg pretty quick. So I think, you know, for the senior arena, I think those are some of the challenges we're going to see. And then, of course, we've talked about it before in this mastermind, is that you're going to have some new ways of creating housing for seniors, you know, where you go rent a room and then there's a common living room and a common kitchen and somebody comes in and cooks for you. And that may not be, you know, maybe a 4 or 5 bedroom type facility versus, you know, 100, 200 bed facility. Hopefully isn't going to cost as much, but I mean, I think you're going to see a lot more of those popping up elsewhere to be able to accommodate all these people. Because as somebody mentioned, I think Jody, you mentioned we're living longer, and you know, people, seniors in particular, continue to want to have their own space. They don't necessarily want to live with their children and grandchildren. They want to have their own life and their own space to some degree so that it can be normal for them. That would be their new normal. And I think, so I think we're going to see a lot more of those popping up in areas that we don't have that today. I just think it's going to be a challenge as we continue to get more and more seniors. You know, we talked about in the last session we talked about the term boomers. Well, as I mentioned then, boomers are until 1964. You're born in 1965, you're now 55 years old. So it's not just, and that's, you know, that's the challenge, is it's not just the boomer generation anymore that's retiring. It's the next generation, and when does the next generation? So, you know, before you know, we might have 3 generations that are all seniors because we are living longer. So that, I think that's going to be an interesting play as far as how housing is going to be looked upon here in the next 5 to 10 years even.
Oh, how are people getting seller leads? How are you generating seller leads? 55 plus neighborhoods or otherwise? How's anybody generating leads? Let's talk about it. Give people other ideas, what they can do.
Well, I'm a new agent, so I'm starting just with friends, right? Like through circle of friends, sphere of influence friends. I tried running Facebook ads and stuff like that, and I don't mind doing it, but I think I want to get more proficient at just being able to close a sale, and with, you know, the being able to, you know, properly, how do I describe it? I guess, using scripts and making the conversations flow properly and being able to determine, motivation and at what point they're at. So like I'm searching friends and stuff, but I actually found the presentation that Ed Robinson did, because he lives in Toronto, but he works in the east end of the city where I live. So I found his approach to be very like a logical approach, like going to these probus meetings and certain seniors groups, right? Where if you can get a captive audience and begin to show your face and become a regular, somebody that they recognize, right? And go in every once in a while and chat at their meetings and their get-togethers, because I think once things start to open up a little, we become more social. That the reason why I like the seniors market is because I enjoy speaking to people one-on-one as opposed to through social media, right?
Yeah.
Because it's funny, I'm taking this Brian Buffini course, and I'm pairing up with a younger realtor who amazingly has a bunch of people in her database, but she doesn't have any of their addresses. So she's got all these phone numbers to text and some emails, or barely even emails. It's just mainly texting. So I find it strange that she because he recommends you pop by every once in a while and just say hello, drop something off, right? But she goes, I don't have any of their addresses, right? So
does a product like Spokio, or I don't know what you might have in Canada, can you reverse engineer the addresses in her case? Could she find them that way via the phone numbers?
Facebook.
no. Yeah, no, it's no, you guys in the States, you have a lot more liberal open laws where you can find out information on. In Canada, it's a little more restrictive.
That's what
Like
I
it's
thought.
it's
That's what I thought.
very difficult to find addresses and other information just from a phone number or an email.
Even on Facebook?
Yeah,
Well, on Facebook, if they put it down, right?
most
But,
people hide that anymore,
yeah.
That's true.
So like her only option is she's going to try and have some client social gatherings, right? And then just try and slowly collect some addresses, via that way, right?
Well, in that case, if I was talking to her, have social gatherings and have prize giveaways.
Yeah.
You
Well, that's
have
her
to
strategy. The more
Yeah,
often she can get them face to face, the more comfortable they'll be with giving an address. Because she's saying that people like under 30, they're not comfortable
yeah, but if
giving
you
out
want to
addresses.
register, if you want to register for this latest, greatest, whatever she's given away, if she's going after the 30 crowd, then some techie item, you have to put your address there and a good phone number. She probably can get it, but that's how I did it, because I did the same mistake years ago, and
Yeah.
I tagged, kind of a teaching how to buy a house type seminars.
So Florida doesn't have any guidelines on that or rules against that, and Ohio doesn't either, but Michigan does. So does anywhere in your area, Tom, do you have any rules about giveaways and stuff? Like in Michigan, you can't do a drawing. You can't do any kind of drawing like
Chance.
that. It's gambling.
Yeah, chance. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not
if you
that I'm
give
aware
something to
of.
one person, you have to give it to everybody. Otherwise, it's gambling, even if it's a drawing.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, and that's the thing. Everybody has to
Yeah.
know.
You guys don't have anything like that in Canada?
No, not that I'm aware of. Like, I mean, there's other areas that are wide open, because I'm working with a new buyer who is looking at pre-construction. So she sent me this link to a reputable builder to get in on the pre-construction meeting and prices and stuff. And it was all from an agent who was not affiliated with a builder. Right. So it's very deceitful, especially because she was a new immigrant. So that stuff is wide open here. Right. And he
Wow.
puts a disclaimer on the bottom of his website, so it's not like he's not admitting it, but people don't even, she doesn't even get that far. They're just busy looking at the house and the area and what the different layouts are possible, right? So that's wide open. And that's when I went back and I contacted her and I told her, I said, you weren't talking to the builder, you were talking to an agent, right? Who told her. And then when I talked to the builder, the release is actually in July. He was gathering all names for June the 9th with a sense of urgency, telling her that she wouldn't get a unit if she didn't register by the 9th of June. Because the idea is he wants to get like 200, 300, 400 names and sift through them all and present the builder with 50 qualified purchasers. And even those 50, maybe I would find it hard to believe if he got allotted more than 10 units, right? Because the builder wants to deal with one person, not with many, right? But luckily, this is a reputable builder. Like, that's wide open, very deceitful. There's no laws against that, right? Like Canada for years is like, for our securities laws, they were lax compared to the securities laws you had in the States for years. And even to this day, they're not as stringent, right? But for privacy, they go they go in the like, they're far more stringent here compared to down there.
So is
So
anybody doing seminars for, how to sell your house, or what improvements to make your house sell faster? Anything? Anybody doing?
well,
Any-
again, I don't want to chime in all the time, but we are the most restrictive, one of the most restrictive jurisdictions in the world. So we're still pretty much locked up. We're not opening up for another week or so.
Yeah.
Oh,
So open houses have been canceled for a while. We've had restaurants shut down for well over a year. So this is all like, when I talk to people in Texas or even other parts of Canada, they're a lot more open than we are here in Ontario. So we're gonna have to wait for all that stuff.
But that would be a good thing to do via Zoom. So run a Facebook ad, introduce some people doing a seminar on X, whatever X is, and do a Zoom and get them started that way, and then go to person or stay Zoom after you open up.
Oh, I agree, but I'm finding that we're getting a lot of Zoom fatigue here.
Yeah.
People are tired of it. They're like, no, I don't want to do a Zoom. I'm like, unless they need to sell. And if they need to sell, they don't mind meeting you face to face. But like, people, as far as I'm getting a lot of pushback for Zoom, right? So
what's everybody else doing to get seller leads?
right.
yeah.
Yep, pray works.
That's all you can do right now. I mean, I think the key thing is just keeping in front of people, continue to have conversations so that when they are ready. Somebody told me today that one of the things that they're doing is reaching out to people that they sold to 3, 4, 5 years ago, as they may be in the market to now sell. The other thing you want to do is you want to look at, people who are flexible, right? Right now is the perfect time to sell. It's prices are high. Sell now. We're going to have a bust at some point. Who knows when? I don't have a crystal ball, but at some point we're going to have a bust. If you got a nice profit sitting in your house right now, or condo or what have you, I'd be selling. If I was on the edge of, do I want to sell or not sell? I'd be selling right now and go renting an apartment somewhere, or renting another house. Wait until the bottom explodes and then go buy again.
I have a buyer that we're looking at this house, and it's $350,000, and which is an average price in the area. It actually sold in 2018 for $250,000. And I told the buyer, I said, I know you love this house. I said, but I see absolutely no updates that were done to this house. It had a septic, it had, you know, all the component things done within the last 5 years, but they were done prior to the last sale. So that is exactly what those people are doing. They're looking at this market and going, if we can get $100,000 more out of our house, we're selling.
And by the way, they don't have to pay any tax on it. No capital gains because they lived there for 2 years.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's just, it's incredible. So these people are, you know, that, and that's what I tell them. If you are planning to sell your home, and that's been my message to past clients, like you said, reaching out to those people that are past clients. I have said, if you are planning on selling within the next 3 to 5 years, you should be thinking about doing it now and finding an interim place. Whatever, you don't have to buy whatever your 5-year plan was, but you should be thinking about putting whatever it is you're living in on the market now.
Yep.
Because you will never get that much money back 5 years from now. It just is not going to be able to sustain that long.
Right.
So that's a great market as far as finding those connections. I have absolutely nothing that is tried and true. I feel like it is it's a floundering. It's been a year and a half of, it's new ways, new criteria, everything's new, and you take it, okay, we're going to go this direction today. And that might work long term, but there just doesn't seem to be any consistency for me. And that's what I was hoping that you guys would be sharing, going, oh yeah, this has been working for me.
Well, I don't know that anybody has a real answer.
No.
I mean, everybody, everywhere you go, at least here in the States, there's not enough houses on the market for people to want to buy. Like I said earlier, 4 million homes short. That's a lot of homes.
That's a lot.
But just a question for you, because I mean, we live near Buffalo, New York. And even though Buffalo is doing pretty good, the Northeast is not as vibrant as the South and the Southwest in terms of growth. So is it just a matter of not enough houses in the locations where people want to move to? Because it's the same thing in Canada. We can say there's plenty of housing in Nova Scotia, or Newfoundland. There's tons of stuff out there, but nobody wants to go there.
So what's happening here in the States is the Northeast is moving to the Southeast and to Texas in some cases. The West Coast, California, Washington State, and Oregon are moving to Nevada, Arizona, and Texas. And now we're starting to see it here in Florida. People are moving here for many different reasons. Northeast and California, and actually the West Coast, are moving to Florida or to the Southeast simply because of the taxes.
Yeah.
And their pensions in Florida won't be taxed.
Yes.
So they automatically get a pay raise when that happens.
But Florida's always traditionally had growth. They've had a little boom and bust, but there's always been growth.
But not like it is now. We're getting 1,000 people a day moving here.
Wow.
And the people there aren't leaving.
And the people, and everybody thinks of Florida is seniors. That's not the case anymore. That stopped being the case about 20 years ago. You're still going to have your pockets, but a lot of the younger people have moved down with their families to be close to mom and dad and their grandparents. So they've moved in. So you take Manhattan as an example. They're hurting bad in New York City right now. So they're not having they have more houses and condos and things on the market there than they've had in a long time. And that's because everybody's deciding to move. They're tired of the politics. They're tired of the craziness that's going on in these states, and they're moving elsewhere. Same thing on the West Coast.
Yeah.
Taxes are extremely high, cost of living's extremely high. The politics that's involved is not what everybody wants. So they're moving to a state where they feel more comfortable with the politics.
But Florida's a pretty good size now. They're over 20 million people, so it's not like it's a fair size,
Yeah.
you know, place. It's not just tourism, right? It's beyond tourism.
Yeah, and you have pockets, right?
Yeah.
So you have the Southeast corridor, you know, Miami, Fort Lauderdale, Palm Beach.
Yeah.
Then you have the Southwest corridor, Fort Myers, Naples area. Then you've got Tampa. You've got, you know, little
Pockets.
areas. You've got, you know,
Jacksonville.
Orlando, Jacksonville. You got
Yeah.
the Panhandle.
Yeah.
You know, so you got,
Absolutely.
but you've got a lot of vacant land in between.
Oh yeah, but well, didn't they say in California, the first time in 100 years, there's been the population has contracted for the first time in 100 years. They've had 100 years of growth, and this is the first year in 2020 that it actually shrunk. But
Well, and that, yeah, that comes back to people are wanting to find a way to make their money grow. And
Yeah.
one of the ways to do it is to lower their expenses.
Right.
And
that's why Arizona's been a boom. Like people in
Right.
California have really benefited from whoever's gone to Arizona.
right.
Right.
Exactly. So, you know, I think that's in general what everybody's tried to do over the last year and a half is to make their money grow in whatever way they can.
Yeah.
People aren't taking trips and cruises, so now they're improving their house. Well, because the demand on improving their house, now we could charge more for the lumber that you need, and we can charge more for the service also. But, you know, there's just always a trade-off when you make a demand on one side, something else is going to have to go up. So one thing that Jody was saying, I hope, you know, I was hoping you guys all have, you know, the answer. There's one common thing that occurs everywhere. Doesn't matter where you live. You're always going to have deaths. Now, as morbid as that sounds, I work the probate market heavily. And it's not for everybody because it is a tedious, long, detailed, emotional process in a lot of ways. But that's one way to get listings. Now, you know, some people
you work the probate market. How do you do that?
So we had a get together down in Tampa, and I ran into a couple ladies there, and I said, you have to get to your county or in Canada, Toronto, and figure out how in the States, and sorry, Tom, I don't know Canada well enough, but in the States, if you have your house at a trust and you're married and one dies, they still have to go to court for 30 days in the state of Florida to say, okay, the surviving spouse gets the house. So that may not be the best one to go after because the surviving spouse may not be leaving, but it's a potential because of the emotion. Just like Donald said, the lady's husband's in a nursing home, memory care, and she can't live without him. That's going to happen. So you have to follow up and see. But I go after the ones that don't have a surviving spouse. And I go after them via our county, makes it very easy. So I could track that the minute that it gets recorded as, you know, it's going into probate, whatever that may mean. That may mean three days. It may mean 3 years, depending on how complicated it is. But I start contacting the family, and they give you the names right there. They give you the survivors and the obituaries. Our obituaries are online now, so it makes it easy. I use, like I said, Tom, it's easy to track them backwards. I used to pay for the service. There's actually services out there that do all the work for you, but I decided I didn't want to pay the service. So if your place doesn't provide the service easily that you can get hold of it, I'll give you the name of, you know, 2 that I know of that does it. So
Yeah, well, I know up here, I don't think we have something similar to that, because you can, if a spouse, if one of if spouse dies, you don't necessarily need to take their name off the title until they sell the house. So there's no law saying, like, I know, for example, I'm helping a lady in the neighborhood whose mother, she just took her mother's name off a title, and her mother died in 2009, right? So
Well, and
she,
that's true here to a certain extent, because we run into that somebody will call me and say, my dad died last week and mom's still on the deed. Where's mom?
Yeah.
Oh, she died 6 years ago. The one I just listed and sold 2 weeks ago was that exact situation. The mom died 6 years ago. They had 2 different trusts and they didn't bother to take care of mom. So
Yeah.
and now we had to, go to court and try to, figure it out of how to resolve that issue. But, death is one thing that's always going to occur. But like I said, you have to figure out, is there an easy way to get hold of it? Do you use the service, or do you even want to do that?
Well, but here, like, I don't know how the laws are there, but here, for example, like, a lot of people, not that you don't have to worry, but the estate taxes are not really that high, usually about 1.5%. So a lot of people that think they have to take the name out, their name off of it and give it to their kids, that's actually detrimental, because if you give your house to your kids here too early, because it's not their principal residence, they could be subjected to capital gains tax for the amount of years that they own it, which would be probably higher than the 1.5% that you would pay as an estate tax. So here, like, you don't have to take the name off a title until the house is sold, even if one of the persons is no longer living. Then the lawyer does that once it changes owners.
Right. Yeah, and every area is going to be different of how they operate, but think about that as a possibility, because that's the one thing that, like I told Donald, I said, I've got to get back to the basics, and the basics to me is hitting that hard, because there's very few realtors that would do what's required for probate in my market.
Well, that's what Ed Robinson was saying. Like, up here, what he does is he accesses some property records and he looks for anybody who's been in the house before a certain date.
Right.
So figuring if somebody's been in the house for 25 to 35 years, they're seniors. And then he basically sends correspondence to them directly, right?
And,
as opposed to farming an area, he picks off specific houses where the owners have been there, because again, a lot of people, like my mother's been in the house 49 years.
Right. Yeah.
So
and
if you check property records, you would see that.
Yeah, and that's a good way to do it, is anybody over, 15.
That's what I'm copying, right? And we're working the same area.
Yeah, 15, 20 years, because empty nesters is going to happen. They may need to downsize, or they may need to move on to someplace else. But there's always ways to do it. And I think that's the thing, that we're going to have to think outside the box to get the listings, because it's back to list to last.
Yes.
So there have been, in our area, there's been a lot of new retirement facilities going up. And that's a great opportunity if you have those in your area. Introduce yourself. You guys mentioned earlier about, doing meetings and stuff. One of the things that they actually encourage is to have someone come in and talk about, the transition into a facility and leaving your home, and that independence that you think you're losing, but yet you're actually gaining independence by moving into those. So a couple of the facilities in our area actually sought out realtors to come in and do those talks, which allows you to meet people. And it's not for the people moving into the facility, it's for the family members. On how, how it affects them putting mom and dad in these places, and how it makes them feel, and that building that relationship with those family members might be a way in your areas. I don't know. I know, Roderick, you were saying that you're new. And Tom, I think that might be something, if you have those facilities, stopping in one day, saying hi, introduce yourself, leave a card, and just, tell them who you are. And if they ever have anybody asking about real estate questions, you're happy to answer it and be a resource. Great way to make a connection anyway.
And it's also the same thing on new home builds. You need to know every new home builder in your area, and I call it wine and dine them by taking donuts, taking water, taking lunch, taking whatever, and being their best friend, because there's a lot of buyers that walk in there that don't have a realtor to sell their current house.
Mhm.
And new builds is going to be the way that most people are going to end up going, because that's what's going to be available. And so if you go after the new home builders and wine and dine them just as much as you do the nursing home assisted living types, in our market, we've got kind of a locked situation because of the developer, but it's this thing that it works well. That's what I did in Orlando. I had 25 new homes on the market on my books waiting to close. And a lot of times I'd get called and say, hey, this couple's got a house to sell. Go talk to them. Just because I gave them enough business and wine and dined them. So another way to get some listings, backdoors way of getting it.
Hey, Tom, you said you've mentioned a few places, so I'm confused. Are you in Ontario?
In Toronto, yeah.
You're in Toronto, okay. So how far is that from Brownburg, Chatham, Quebec?
Oh, depends how far that is from Montreal, but we're about
Outside of
4.5
your
hours.
area?
Yeah, 4.5 hours to Montreal.
Okay,
So if that's in the Eastern Townships, it's probably about 5 or 6 hours.
okay, outside of your area then, okay.
Oh, yeah.
I have a friend who has a father who is, of course, elderly because we're old. But his dad has some land that he's been sitting on all these years, and he's thinking he needs to get his dad to sell that property.
Yeah, no, that's a popular recreational area. There's lakes and
it?
stuff. It's near the border with Vermont,
Okay.
New Hampshire border, right?
I think it is.
And upstate New York is attached to Quebec too. So that's the type of geography you're looking at there. It's kind of like gentle rolling hills, some lakes, very picturesque, small towns. It's the weekend getaway from Montreal. One of the
Now's a
weekend.
great time for him to unload that vacant land then, because the kids don't want it, and
Oh yeah, because
Dad-
recreational properties are selling, very good.
Okay.
But I was gonna say there's a company up here that I've heard some ads and I've just started looking into them called Properly Real Estate, where they kind of help you, and they don't market specifically to seniors, but they're talking to a lot of seniors for the downsizing part, where they come in and they basically evaluate your house and allow you to look for another house, right? And then make a major down payment with the equity in your house. And once you're moved into the new house, then they help you with the sale, right? And they say things like they're not a wholesaler because they tell you that part of the package is that they stage your house once it's empty and that they will get you top dollar, right? So it kind of allows people on both ends, people that are going up, they say, fine, that, this is what you have, like you have $800,000. If you want to move up to $1 million, then you need to be approved, right? Obviously. And then they help you find that house. So they make the sale first, move you out of the house, and then they guarantee you a certain price for your house. So it's not like a wholesaler, right? But you're already moved out. And it's the same thing they're telling with seniors, right? So they're saying, fine, we'll find you a house first. Like say your house is worth $1 million. The house you look for is going to be, let's say, 700,000, and they move you into that house. Then they sell your house, right? And they evaluate the house that you're in and guarantee you a certain price. So, but the whole idea being that they will move you into whatever house you're looking for first, And then once you're out, they'll take care of cleaning your house and staging it and selling it for top dollar. Because we're seeing a lot of stuff, a lot of companies up here, like, you know, the typical cash, you know, we'll buy your house for cash, 24 hours, we'll give you a quote, which is basically they give you peanuts, right? So there are people that go for it, surprisingly, but you know, like anybody who does the math is, you know, a little bit of effort could net you another 100,000 easy, right? But that's a lot of money for convenience, right?
Right.
Well,
So
and that's what I don't understand, how those companies are convincing people, because, you know, how long does it take to sell a house in any market now?
I haven't had it, but you know what some of them do? They show people these pictures of houses that look terrible. And sometimes houses they go to look terrible, and they tell them, say, look, you know, do you want to fix it up? Do you want to spend the money? Do you want to have people come to your house? We can take care of this all, you know, and we'll have you out in a month, right? So, but at least, but the wholesalers, they don't help you find a house. They just give you rock bottom, you know, prices for your house. They don't, they leave it up to you to find your own place to go, right?
That blows my mind. I just want you to know.
Oh yeah, me too. But
There are all sorts of weird things going on right now. And that one, again, that one is another one that I had not heard before. And I mean, it's great. Let's, you know, find you a house and worry about selling yours later, and we'll take care of that. We'll handle that for you. And let's, you know, financially, how's that work?
well, I think it works in a hot market. But if the market is not like this will work in the market that we have presently, because the
Was
houses
the
will
real
sell.
estate office actually funding it?
No, this is a realtor. They're actually registered with Toronto Real Estate Board. They're a realtor.
Well,
right?
that's what I
There's
mean.
just-
So they're funding the purchase, almost like a bridge loan.
yeah.
Huh.
So they're saying no, well, they're going to help you pull the equity out, right? So they're helping you with the financial vehicle that will allow you to pull the equity out of your house in order to make the purchase.
Like a reverse mortgage type thing?
Well, no, well then when you sell your house, it gets paid off, right?
Right.
Or it gets the portion that they guarantee you gets delivered to you, right? But
Crazy.
well, it's the same thing, I guess, as if you were to go purchase a house, you would do the same thing on your own, but you would have to. They're saying we'll guarantee you a price, right? If you do it on your own, you buy a house, then you're obligated. So it's always the same thing. Do you buy a house first? Do you sell your house first? So
Yeah, we've been doing, I've been writing a lot of concurrent offers, which is good for the seller, not so good for my buyers, but it has a little bit more power than a contingent offer. So we like those.
well, we haven't seen, I would say, I mean, I've only been a realtor a couple of years, but it's probably been longer. There is no realtor in Toronto that would probably say that they won't put a clause in saying, I'll purchase your house on the condition of selling mine. Like that's a no. Sellers will turn that down in an instant, right?
Well,
Especially in this market.
But if you don't go that far outside of Toronto, that's still quite standard, right? Like it's when some of these small towns 2 hours away, it's pretty standard.
well, and with the concurrent, not contingent, but with a concurrent offer, it leaves the seller's house in active status on the market and allows them to bring in other offers. But then what happens is then they have
and then
24
you're taking a
hours.
risk, to
Yeah.
match the offer. But
24 hours to remove that. And
yeah, that's what you're seeing in the outlying areas. But in Toronto, you are
Not-
not seeing anything that says, condition upon selling my house. We haven't seen that for years.
wow.
Because everybody will be like, no, that's
No.
your affair, right? You want the house, we want that you want to firm up, right? Like they'll still allow for like conditions like financing and things like that, but condition
And see,
upon the
all that
sale of the
doesn't
house.
force them, I think it forces them to write an offer that, yeah, we're going to buy this, but if I
Yeah.
don't sell my house, my financing isn't going to get approved. And that's just crazy. And that's why I think in our area, why we're seeing homes go back on the market.
Oh, definitely. Like I'm thinking that because, well, a lot of realtors are advising their clients not to put any conditions,
Right.
right? Even inspection. But like
Oh.
what I'm starting to see is like there's an app here called House Sigma, which is actually a realtor too. But you're starting to see on there, they run the one of their categories is sold under bought. So you'd be amazed at how many houses I used to see that were sold in 2017 or purchased in 2017 and sold for less than they bought it in 2017. But now we're starting to see a lot of houses that were purchased in 2020 and being sold a year later for less than they bought. So that tells you that they couldn't afford it. Something's up, and then they ended up selling the house for less than they purchased it, even just 6 months to a year earlier, right? So you're
Wow.
seeing a lot of that.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, I think that's a form of buyer's remorse. So people are saying, I overpaid. I'm not going to see this price for several years, so I'll take my losses now.
Well, and I think it also comes down to people figured out in 2020, the house that they thought they loved, they don't love so much now that they're working from the home, the kids are at home, the whatever's at home.
Yeah.
And the house became very small compared to what they wanted it to be. We're also having people that are moving from here back to wherever their kids are at, grandkids are at, because the parents have to go back to work, but the kids were at home, you know, doing virtual school or whatever you call it, wherever. And so it's a thing that a lot of movement is happening that wouldn't have normally happened without COVID.
I agree. And I think a lot of people are moving mom and dad in with them. And that's some of the, you know, after effect of all of this, which space is the issue. I'm hearing more and more, and I don't know if that's true in all areas, but here I'm seeing more and more where mom lives with them or dad lives with them and instead of someplace else.
Well, I want to honor everybody's time. We've got about 3 minutes left. Anybody have a last topic that they would like to discuss?
I saw your post that TikTok's next week. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, TikToks for seniors next week. So
Does that mean that it's for seniors for us?
I'm not dancing no TikTok stuff. So just putting it out up front, but Debbie might, you never know. No, it's a realtor at eXp that specializes on TikTok, but I think he's gonna try to put a seniors twist to it. So it's an interesting platform. There's some really good stuff. There's lots of dancing that goes on. I look at the interesting stuff. There's a lot of good, there are some really good people that put some really good information out there, just like any other social media platform. It's just, you know, you got to pick and choose like anything else as to what you want to look at and what you don't. But there are some really good people out there that are doing real estate related stuff on TikTok. So just a topic we thought we'd throw out there and let everybody have some fun with it. And hopefully he'll bring some fun to the mastermind next week. But
Is that the cowboy?
no, I forget his name now, but no, it's not the
He's with his
Texas guy.
daughter.
Sean Cochran, I think.
Sean Cochran. It's not
Yeah.
Sean Cochran.
Yeah, that's the one. Sean Cochran.
That is the one. Sean Cochran is.
Oh yeah, I've seen his stuff. Yeah. Sean Cochran. Yeah.
So hopefully we can get a little senior flavor to it and have some fun with it next week. But
Yeah, his daughter helps him out with the videos and stuff. Yeah, I've seen him. He's good.
Well, good.
Thank
That's
you
what.
for
that's what's-
everybody coming.
Hey, Carlene, where are you from? What is your area?
Oh, Chicago.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm in the city.
So are you seeing more people move out or move in or steady, Carlene?
Well, Chicago is somewhat neutral in the sense that, yeah, there's a lot of migration out to like the further, how would I say, towards Missouri, like, and all that stuff. Yeah, they are to those areas. But there's always been a lot of migration out of Chicago for the last 2-3 years. I don't know, because of what the city's going through, or the state with the taxes and all that stuff.
Yep, that's exactly what we were talking about with California and the Northeast, and Illinois is the same way. Taxes have gotten out of control and people's looking for a way to, I call it, get a bigger paycheck. And that's with lower taxes or lower housing cost or whatever it is. So,
Yeah, I agree. And then the energy too. I think the little smaller places are better now than city life for now. I think people can see that.
All right, everybody, it's 8:01 Eastern time. Thank you very much for coming again, and we will see you next week. TikToks for seniors. TikTok for seniors.
Thanks.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, everybody.
bye-bye.